Welcome back to the Warrior pregame show. It's time for our weekly chat with Coach Lambert before the game gets underway. And Coach, the number 18 rated Kansas Wesleyan Coyotes, I think some people, including myself, were a little unsure of how good of a football team Kansas Wesleyan was because of I try to make it politically correct, a little softer schedule in their first 5 games. And then they played McPherson to 14 points on their home field last week, and I think we have decided now that this is definitely a team well deserving of being nationally ranked and right where they are.
Sure, and that's we just you can't spend a ton of time speculating on the past and how someone played another team. Right now you go back to the first game of the season. I mean that's 6-7 weeks ago, and teams change and the season changes, and so we've known all along coming in that they were going to be an excellent football team, and I do think you're right, you're quite right. They deserve to be in the top 20, and we'll see what happens today. We're going to be playing a very good football team.
And it's an extremely well-rounded offensive team, 211 rushing yards a game. That's good for first in the conference, and second in passing at 318. Is this a game this season, game number 7, where your defense may have to have their best effort of the season for you to be successful this afternoon?
Well, I think if they have their best effort and we have our best effort on offense and special teams has our best effort, then we'll call it a success. I don't know if you can ever say before a game who has to play at what level to win. Certainly you can make those speculations, but before you play, that's all they really are. And so we anticipate we're not going to stop everything they can do every time they do it, but we need to manage the probability of them getting a big play, and we need to manage the strengths of their quarterback in both throwing the ball downfield, his scrambling ability, and then being able to make yards off the scramble, and the way that they can run him with particular calls for him to run the football. And so I think that's going to be the key for us. Those are going to be the keys for us on defense against their offense.
And scheming defensively this week, of course, Doug Webster, you mentioned their quarterback, a definite dual threat passing and designed runs, and an experienced good running back in Jake Winship. 7 guys have caught 10 or more balls on the season. Does that make it more difficult to defensive plan for, or I don't want to say easier to plan for, but more straightforward since you can't really focus on just 1 or 2 guys?
I think philosophically on defense for us, we probably never do focus on just 1 or 2 guys, and some of that is based upon our system and how we want to portray our defense on any given play relative to our zone blitz scheme and coverages and that kind of thing. And so kind of by our style and philosophy, we don't usually focus on just one player or one kind of play. And so I think some of that doesn't necessarily have to do with what our opposing offense is going to do. It really has to do about us and our personality. And so I know that's a long answer to your question, and I know I haven't answered it, but I don't think it makes it easier or harder. It just is what it is at some level, and we have to play knowing that there are several players on their offense who are going to get the football.
Your rushing attack, 251 yards last week. You got the ball spread around to even some new guys, and Sean McKnight and JoJo Curiel got some yards rushing on that wide receiver sweep. This Kansas Wesleyan defense gives up just 94 yards rushing a game, and they have a very tough front 7, especially in their linebacking core. How difficult will it be this afternoon to try to get that front 7 block to have success with your rushing attack?
Well, regardless of how difficult it may be, and they're good football players and they have a great front 7, we still have to do it. And so the way that we're going to win football games and compete at the highest level, and beat a team that's ranked in the top 20 is to run the football, and we're going to have to run it inside the tackles at whatever level. And so it's going to be hard. We acknowledge that. They're good up front, but we're good up front, and we have good running backs, and we have a good scheme to run in between the tackles. And so, the answer to that question is, yeah, it's going to be difficult, but we're going to still need to do it. And I think the outcome of the game, in large part, will be based upon our ability to run the ball inside on first down or whenever we need to on rhythm, and then be able to pick up some third and short yardage plays to keep drives going and run the football. It's kind of the old adage where they sort of know what we're going to do, and we sort of know they know that, but we need to be able to do it anyway.
Last week, +3 in the turnover department, and really all season you've been doing a good job at forcing turnovers, and the special teams have been good. And of course, we talked about Doug Dunn during the week, 4 out of 5 and 7 out of 8 now on the season, the player of the week, special team wise, last week in the conference. Is that two areas, that the turnovers and the special teams, that are pretty much categories you must win those categories this afternoon to be successful as far as the outcome on the scoreboard?
Well, once again, Scott, there's no way to know that. I actually heard, I think it was Coach Snyder at Kansas State. I was in the car and caught a Thursday talk show of his, and he was saying how, he had told his team, I think it was before the Nebraska game, how important special teams was, and if they win the special team game, then they really have a chance in this kind of thing. And they won the special team side, and they didn't win the game, obviously. And so, his point was, you can really only speculate. Every game is going to take on a life of its own. Do we want to win the special team and turnover battle? Obviously. Does it make it easier to win on the scoreboard? Of course it does. But certainly to say that we have to win that to win those two sides or those two aspects to win on the scoreboard, I just can't say that. And I think it's a little bit dangerous to tell our team that, because then if they get a sense that we're not during the course of the game, what are they going to think of that? So I do know what you're asking, and the answer to the question is that will help us immensely. To win the football game is to play great special teams and to win the turnover battle.
Well, Coach, good luck this afternoon, and as always, we'll get your comments after the game here in just a little while. Thanks, Coach.
It's great to see you again, and thanks for everything you do. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you in a bit.
All right, thanks, Coach. Coach Andy Lambert, as he prepares his team to face Kansas Wesleyan here in just a few minutes. We're going to take a commercial timeout. When we come back, we'll have your probable starting lineups as the Warrior pregame show will continue on HKFM.